All right, time now for another MVP face-to-face, this time, of course, presented by DAZN and Matchroom Boxing. And my friends, I have been looking forward to this one for several months. Of course, you know these men. They need no introduction. This is the head man over at Matchroom Boxing, the one and only Eddie Hearn. This is the head man over at Most Valuable Promotions, the one and only Jake Paul. We've done two of these, Jake, leading up to your fights, but this time, you guys are the co-promoters for one of the most historic bouts in the history of boxing. 143 years, Madison Square Garden has been around. Never before have two women headlined a boxing event. That changes on Saturday, April 30th. Katie Taylor, Amanda Serrano. Not only that, it's number one versus number two, pound for pound. That never happens. That's historic in its own right. Now, Jake Paul is on Team Serrano, Eddie Hearn, Team Taylor. This is going to be fun, guys. Could I start with you, Eddie, and ask you this? 2020, when you promoted his fight, if I would have told you back then, 2.5 or so years later, you'd actually be co-promoting an event of this nature, of this magnitude, alongside the problem child, honestly, what would you have said?
I mean, one, I would have said no chance, and two, I would have said no chance that he would be where he's at in his boxing career, quite honestly. I mean, he came in, I didn't know if he had any ability. Fought Anderson Gibb, who was terrible on the night, and Jake looked pretty average because Gibb was terrible as well, and it was like two YouTubers.
Eddie,
what?
Don't start this off like that.
What?
You can't. I beat him in 1 minute. How do you even assess how good I was?
Well, because I said I didn't know, and actually.
But you called me average after
you
1
are
minute.
average.
But you called me after 1 minute of my first professional fight.
No, but you're still average. You're not.
It's not true. I just beat a 5-time world
beat
champion.
a UFC.
You don't even know. You don't know my ability though.
That's true. That's true.
You don't.
I don't know where you might go. I just give you where I think you're at, which I'm entitled to, which is average. Average is very complimentary to you as a boxer. If you're talking about average in terms, what is average? Someone that can go and win an intercontinental title. That's a good achievement for someone that's not had any real boxing background.
But
I actually give you credit.
Did anyone on your roster last year win Knockout of the Year?
They have done previously. It was a great knockout.
But they didn't
You
last
knocked
year,
out
right?
a guy that doesn't really box.
So average, but I had more accomplishments than everyone on your roster. That's crazy. So is your whole roster?
You won Knockout of the Year on ESPN. You got Canelo Alvarez is the undisputed super middleweight champion.
What's the
you
number
had better
one thing?
achievements than him.
What's the number one thing to do in boxing? Knock your opponent out.
Jake,
I did that the best.
You're distinctly average, but that is a compliment.
So, but none of
What are you talking about?
your roster had that
Canelo
accomplishment.
Alvarez,
So it's like,
Anthony Joshua,
is your
Taylor. These are undisputed
average?
world champions.
You're just saying your roster's average?
You knocked out a UFC guy. But anyway, back to the Anderson Gibb fight. I didn't know if you had any ability then. And I give you credit for having some ability now. We won't go much further.
How's he as a promoter?
As a promoter, great. We'll argue about the boxing. We've never had one argument in a promotion, by the way, because we're both working for the same goal. But he will argue about the boxing because he thinks he's going to achieve something. I admire him for falling in love with the sport and giving commitment to the sport. I just don't think he's going to go and become a world champion.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I feel like it's sort of the underlying issue here and the elephant in the room. Recently, just a couple of weeks ago, there was an HBO Real Sports piece that came out about you, and Eddie was featured in it, and he said a few things about you that I think you did not like. I think he said that you didn't think that he would become a champion boxer, and I think you took offense to that, right?
I didn't take offense.
You didn't take
I
offense?
actually do like it. You know, my girlfriend actually was like, I don't like Eddie. It was because of what he said. And I was like, no, I actually really like what he said because when I do become a world champion, I'm just going to play the clip over and over again.
He's got a picture of me in his gym.
Yeah, of him trying to deny what I could possibly do. He's trying to put a limit on what he thinks is possible because of what is possible in his brain. But see, I'm different. I have accomplished all my dreams and all my goals in my life at 25 years old. He probably didn't do that when he was 25. So he doesn't think that I can accomplish that, but I can. And when I do become a world champion, I'm just going to play the clip over and over, post it on Twitter everywhere and say, laugh in his face. I get the last laugh. So I like what he says.
But you have got to beat a champion, by the way, in this. This isn't even a bet. This is just opinion. You can't just create some belt and then say that you're a world champion. You've got to beat a legitimate world champion. But again, when I talk about, by me saying you're not going to be a world champion, like there's 50% of my roster who probably won't become world champion. It's not an insult. It's a very difficult thing to do. My personal opinion is that I don't think you're good enough to do it. If you do, wow, What an achievement. And I love your dreams. Dreams are beautiful. But you have to have the ability in sport to go to that very top level. Have you got it? We'll see. But there's a long way to go.
Why do you have a picture of him in the ring where you train in Puerto Rico?
Just motivation. You know, I think
That's deep.
people like him, you know, drive me to become the best version of myself. And so when I see the picture of wait till you fight a real boxer in my gym, it just motivates me to train harder every single day. And all of these people in the boxing industry who continue to doubt me, to continue to make excuse after I continue to raise my level of opposition, continue to perform, continue to get big paydays, continue to get knockouts of the year. There is always something to say, and it just continues to drive me and motivate me. So that's why the picture's there.
Do you like Eddie Hearn?
Yeah, no, of course, and I do give him credit. He was the first one to realize, like, oh, there's something here with this influencer YouTube boxing because we bring a lot of eyeballs. We do shit differently, and we know how to market. I have no, like I said, my girlfriend was like, oh, took it personally and was like, oh, I don't like what he said. No, I respect his opinion. I just am entitled to mine, and that's a fair debate. We don't have to sway each other's opinions either way, but. That's just two men having opinions. There's nothing wrong with that.
The one thing I always do say to give him credit is, doesn't need my credit, but when I did Logan against KSI, which was massive, like, and I did see it, and that's why I did Jake against Anderson Gibb. I said I'd never do another YouTube fight, and I won't. But he's not a YouTube boxer anymore. That was a YouTube fight, you against Gibb, but he's not a YouTube boxer anymore. He's genuinely a fighter that is trying to become a real fighter, a champion, and everyone's entitled to do that. Whether he can do it or not, we'll debate, but he's not a YouTube boxer, which I think is a big compliment, because I wouldn't get involved with that again, because it was, you know, it was amazing, but I'm a purist, I love the sport, and I admire what he's doing.
So let's talk about this fight. It's historic, and you've been with Katie since her, you know, pro debut, and there's the story of her reaching out to you, and you've told him many times before. And he's with Amanda, but you know he's relatively new to Team Serrano. And I've heard you mention this a couple times, so I'm just curious, and I'll ask it flat out: is he getting too much credit for the making of this fight? Should you be getting more of that credit?
No, he. Without Jake, we wouldn't have made this fight because we signed this fight 3 years ago, or a bit less, for less than half of what Amanda's getting. And her and Jordan always felt that it was never enough money, and I think. Now, Jake helped Amanda raise her profile, and obviously the involvement of Jake made the number that they wanted achievable, because it was never achievable. In fact, when they first told me the number, I said, no fight, it's impossible. All of a sudden, Jake boxes Amanda on his shows, he's championing her across social media, he gets involved in the promotion of the show, then DAZN look at it and say, okay, this is much bigger. We're looking at bigger ticket numbers. So without Jake, we wouldn't have made the fight. What you're really referring to is the longer period, the longer road I've had with Katie and women's boxing, and Jake's popped up, but came in at the time when it motivated him. So we got involved with this for the same reasons. Katie Taylor motivated me. Amanda Serrano motivates Jake Paul. I wanted to be part of Katie Taylor's journey, and same with Jake. And we're both very proud to see what's about to happen on Saturday.
So at the press conference that just wrapped up, you made a bet with Eddie, and the bet was essentially, you bet $1 million, but we kind of built to it, because I think at first you said you wanted to make a bet, and then you talked about the jewelry, and then you made a joke about the jewelry, saying it cost around $10,000. I'm just recapping in case those out there may have missed it. And then you laid down the challenge for $1 million, but you were a little hesitant to shake his hand.
It's a lot of money, Eric.
Okay, well, I mean,
you know, I've
seen your backyard.
It was my own big mouth that got me into it. It started with his jewelry. I joked it was 10 grand. It's probably, I don't know, whatever, a couple of hundred.
Like, yeah, a couple hundred.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I said, well, what about $1 million? Hoping he'd say, oh, steady on. And he went, all right then. And I went, oh shit. But then Katie's the outsider. She's, you know, and then he said, you know, give me the house, and I'm up for it. I truly believe she's going to win, and I wouldn't have taken the bet otherwise. And I do, like, I want to give these girls the platform. Jake's right; it does add a little bit of pizzazz and a little bit of meaning. But I want her to win with or without the bet. But you know, we'll keep to our word, and I'll take the money over the jewelry. But you know, I truly believe Katie will win on Saturday night, and he feels the same way about Amanda.
So this is official, $1 million, and you also said, when you win, right? Those are your words. You're giving the $1 million to Amanda.
Yeah. Yeah, as I don't need it.
Are you giving your $1 million to Katie?
Not at the
Just
moment,
curious.
no.
Okay, just curious. I wanted to make sure.
We'll talk.
Because Yeah, no, I mean, I would love to give it to Amanda. I think that she deserves it. Even the build up to this fight, this is looking like these fighters should have even gotten paid more than what they did because of how big this is becoming. So, yeah, Amanda deserves it and needs it and wants it more than I do. So, $1 million doesn't change my life, but $1 million changes hers. So, why not?
At the London press conference, Amanda said she wanted 3-minute rounds. I'm assuming you were in agreement. It didn't happen. Are you disappointed that didn't happen?
No, look, I personally, don't necessarily care either way. I think Amanda wanted to do that. I think she believed, that would be in her advantage in the fight because of her gas tank and, Katie getting breaks, I guess, from her coming forward pressure. But I think that is the next step in women's boxing, and I think Amanda Serrano will probably be the first person to do that, or the first female to do that. So it's exciting, and I wish it would have happened for this fight, but I understand why Katie was saying, hey, maybe this doesn't make sense because we're not getting paid for 3 12-minute rounds.
So Katie Taylor is #1 pound for pound. Most people's eyes, including yours, greatest of all time, right? Undefeated, the GOAT at 135. As of right this second, the betting underdog.
That's why I made that clear to Jake. He was very...
Does that blow your mind, though?
I think it's the last few performances. I think people look at the last 2 Katie Taylor performances and say she may be on the decline. And Amanda's looked very strong, but it's just something different about Katie's preparation in this fight. These are the moments that she shines. I'm not sure how Amanda will deal with this moment. She may shine. It may lift her performance. The pressure of this week, the pressure of everything, may affect her performance. Now that's what great athletes do. But they're all-time greats, both of them. I don't see in this frame of mind from Katie Taylor, I don't see her getting beat. I can't visualise it, I can't picture it. But Amanda's a great fighter. She comes forward, she's very heavy-handed, and they're going to engage a lot during the fight. Katie can try and box smart, but we know what she likes to do. She likes to stand and trade and get involved in a fight, and it's going to be a firefight.
So Eddie has said that he thinks that eventually we'll see these two fight at least twice, maybe even 3 times. As Amanda's promoter, you win on Saturday. Immediate rematch? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? And I know it's going to be a crazy fight. I know it's going to be a very entertaining fight. So yeah, we might end up seeing like Arturo Gatti versus Mickey Ward situation going on here. And it's weird, going to sleep the other night, I had a premonition that we would be doing this and sitting down for 3 more fights. Usually my premonitions and dreams come true. So I'll be down. Well, why not? And I think it'll just continue to drive women's boxing forward.
I wonder how you feel about this moment right here. Like, you're not going to fight this man on Saturday, right?
It's a shame. It's a shame I can't fight, because I tell you, do big numbers. Massive.
I saw you going up against Frank Smith.
Yeah, it was Frank Smith.
Yeah.
As much as I don't think this guy will be a world champion, there's Jake Paul and there's Frank Smith, So, sorry, Frank.
How do you think that fight would go, you versus Eddie? Big guy? Similar weight? I mean, you're dropping.
In the UK, there's so many people that want to see me knocked out. We do like 2 million pay-per-view buys in the UK. And if I lose the bet, then I'll take 10 million to fight Jake Paul, and I'll just take the UK pay-per-view. He can have all the other revenue around the world.
Is that a fight you're interested in?
What, me?
Yeah. I mean, you're calling out everyone else,
No.
You called out Dana White.
I just, we're just...
There was a stage where I believed I would easily beat Jake Paul.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm not so sure now. I do think he's improved
It's
a lot.
only been 2.5 years. So.
No, but he can fight. I'll give him credit for that. I told you where I think the limitations are, but he can fight. I'll give him.
Would you like to be in promotion with him again as far as promoting his fights?
Of course.
But he's just an average fighter.
But average is not insulting, Ariel. There was a time you were an average presenter. Now you're a GOAT.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's all right, because you said nice things about me.
That's right.
But I'm giving him so many plaudits. He's improving. I think he's a decent, average fighter. There's a lot of average fighters, but being a world champion is something different. And been around the sport for 35 years. I know what it takes to be a world champion. But I admire.
That's what my teacher said too. They said like, "Yo, I've been teaching for 30 years.
This is a fight game.
I know what I'm doing." I'm like,
teaching at
primary school. It's just different. Like I just hear the same shit my whole life and prove everyone wrong.
Yeah,
so
but
it's just like you're just like it goes in one ear and out the other.
But boxing's different. It's not primary
That's
school.
but it's really not.
Of course it is.
How is it different than anything else?
Because sooner or later you're going to fight a real fight and you're going to get chinned.
It's the same. That's what I was told in Hollywood. That's what I was told in
Hollywood.
YouTube. That's
it's
what I was told in all of this
it's
stuff.
It's a fight game. when you fight a competent,
That's what everyone said, right? Like, oh, fight a real athlete, Nate
you
Robinson.
might not beat Tommy
Fight
Fury.
a real fighter.
You might not.
Fight a real fighter,
Tommy
Ben
Fury.
Askren.
Tommy Fury, right?
Fight a UFC champion.
Jake, Tommy
Boom.
Fury could never win a British title, right? Like, it's a 50-50 fight, you and him.
Do you agree?
No.
But Tommy Fury.
But he's also sitting here saying, like, there was a stage where I could beat Jake Paul. Like, he's delusional.
No, but I didn't.
You know, if
but
we fought, it'd be 30 seconds.
I disagree.
30 seconds.
No,
Did you see the footage
I
of him
disagree.
sparring recently?
I don't need to see the footage.
You would be a big favourite. I'm terrible, but like I said, for 10 mil, I'd do it.
I just.
Wow. I feel like now we're getting
You
somewhere.
don't-
There's no
fight-
point.
no,
It's 4 or 5 steps backwards
Yeah.
for me to
I
fight.
said-
Do you think he should fight Tommy Fury next? This is a hot topic right
It's
now.
like,
Who he should fight
I
next?
look at it and I'm like, he's got all the keys over Tommy Fury. Like, the only payday Tommy Fury could get in the sport is through Jake Paul. So I admired Jake in a big way for accepting that fight, because I actually thought, and I know he believes he wins that fight, but I actually think it's competitive, that fight. But Tommy Fury thinks he wins easy, but I didn't think Jake would ever sign for that fight, and he did. And don't forget, Tommy Fury pulled out of that fight with 2 weeks to go.
Wait,
So-
why didn't you think he would sign?
Because I think it's a 50-50 fight, and I didn't think he wanted a 50-50 fight. I think he wanted a fight with a huge edge.
I always took 50-50 fights. I didn't know what I was getting myself into going up against Nate Robinson. I was like, this guy can dunk. He can jump 4 feet. He's athletic as shit. It's my second fight. Didn't know what I was getting myself into. Ben Askren, real fighter. You know, obviously he's not a striker or whatever, but I'm still taking that step. Tyron Woodley, 5-time UFC champion, knockout power, goes 25 minutes with Kamaru Usman. Those are all 50-50 fights.
Yeah, that was a decent win. No, the Askren fight was embarrassing. He didn't even try. But the Usman fight was a good win. But again,
The Woodley
it's not
fight.
Woodley, sorry, definitely not Usman. But the Woodley fight was a good win. But at the same time, we sit here all day arguing about it. Not a boxer, not a boxer.
So
but he's kindly said that he will fight any of my fighters under 10-0 across any weight division.
Yeah.
Do you have a name?
100%.
Yeah, I said earlier, we've got an Olympian, Chev Clark, he's 1-0, cruiserweight. I got 100 guys.
Does this interest you?
30.
Yeah, I'm the one that said it.
Yeah.
I will beat anyone on his roster with under 10 fights.
Possibly for your next fight?
Yeah, you know, let's do it.
It's a big deal.
Who?
It's a great. I mean, but
I got time. You know, I got time. I'll be in this sport for a long time.
Could I ask though, it was a big deal for you to, headline cards, to be accepted as a boxer.
It wasn't a big deal for me.
Well, perhaps from the outside looking in, I'm wondering though, is this a big deal? You are promoting an historic event, Madison Square Garden. This isn't just some, casino hall. You're sitting, as a peer here next to one of the best, dare I say, the best right now in combat sports in terms of promotion. Not as a fighter, as a co-promoter. This has to be a major feather in your cap, right?
Yeah, no, it's cool and it is exciting. And I'm.
There's
excited.
some validation though. Do you puff your chest out and say, all these people that didn't want me in this sport, look at me now?
I just knew from day one what I would do to this sport, and I don't really need that outside validation because I'm whole within myself. When I look at myself in the mirror at the end of the day, I know what I'm doing. I know what I've done. And by the way, there's so much more that I'm doing that people don't even take notice to. So yeah, I mean, whatever. It's cool. It's all fun and whatever. But I'm just doing my thing, and all kudos to Eddie to making this happen with Nikisa and DAZN and Matchroom, and it's just been a great process. But I don't need the credit or the validation. This is Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor's night and their payday, and let's leave it at that.
Has Jake Paul made boxing better?
I don't think he's made boxing better. I think he's created buzz. I think he's brought attention to the sport that was definitely needed. You have to keep fresh. That's why I did KSI Logan Paul, because we need to bring fresh eyeballs into the sport. It has to have that energy. So I think he's brought a lot of that. I think he's brought good energy. I think he's brought eyeballs. Boxing's a historic sport.
But wouldn't that be making it better? Like more eyeballs, more money, more money, more fights.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
So
I'll give you that. But
making it better.
I feel very personal about boxing at the same time as well. It's like it's a historic sport with a lot of legacy. So to make it better is something that has to stand the test of time. But I think he's right. Yeah, I'll say he's made it better. But I think I like what I'm seeing now. Guys passionate about boxing, and coming into this promotion, I didn't worry, but a lot of people felt, oh, what would Jake do? Would he sort of clown around? He's been 100% legit. He's been pushed in the fight, pushing his client, and he has a passion for boxing, which I share as well, so I give him that credit.
Okay, so in conclusion, I just want to make this official. You obviously are going with Katie. Are there odds involved here, or is it
Yeah,
just
he
straight
said
up?
that he'd give me the odds on the fight, but it's very close. I think it's like 5 to 6, so to say it's virtually even money anyway.
Okay, so is there like a stoppage decision, or is it just straight up?
Straight up win.
Although I do think, and I'm not betting on this because it's a huge price,
Yeah.
but I do feel like Katie Taylor will stop Amanda Serrano.
Late?
Yep. 8, 9, 10 rounds.
What do you think?
You going for the early
She hasn't
stoppage?
stopped someone since 2019,
When did-
especially Amanda
I don't want to say
Serrano.
this, 'cause I don't want to sound silly, but when did Serrano last stop? In the last 2 fights, they went the distance, didn't they, on your card? Or not?
Yeah, I believe the fight before that, she
Yeah,
got a stoppage. So
Poor level opposition, but
You're predicting a finish or a decision?
stoppage or decision?
I think it'll be 8th round TKO.
8th round T. Oh, like you, but the opposite.
It's going to be really exciting.
And it's officially $1 million.
Yeah.
And Jake has vowed that he will give that $1 million to Katie, excuse me,
To
to Amanda.
Oh, to Katie would be nice.
TBD on your end. TBD on your. We shake hands or?
Yeah,
Always a
This is
pleasure.
big.
do
This
it.
is very big. I love this. All right, Saturday night, April 30th, DAZN. If you're a subscriber already, I hate to correct you, Jake. You said pay-per-view. Subscriber already to DAZN, you get this fight, right?
Yeah,
That's
and,
a big
and
deal.
some pay-per-view outlets, but you can.
But if you're a
subscribe to
subscriber
DAZN.
already, you're good to
Absolutely.
go. It's Katie Taylor, it's Amanda Serrano, first time in the 143-year history of this great building, Madison Square Garden, 2 women headlining a card, and more importantly for me, it's #1 versus #2 pound for pound. That's a really big freaking deal. Eddie Hearn, Jake Paul, thank you guys. Good luck to you both on Saturday.